So we begin.
Yes, sir. We can begin.
All right. So good evening, firstly, to all of you. Uh, Actually, this session earlier we had planned to be of a different flavor, where I was supposed to talk about startups and running a startup and all of that. But I think subsequently, when myself and Arunji were discussing, we realized that maybe that is a good subject for some other audience. And this subject we could possibly look at something which is little more personal and little more intimate. So I'm basically extending this whole idea of human library, and I'm today offering myself to be a part of kind of to open up my personal journey. And typically what happens is we say that we are the story that we tell ourselves, and every motivational speaker would use this as their kind of go to message. And it works well in a lot of those scenarios when you're looking at the individual to really feel motivated to do things. And I think for a very long time, I also have been, believing and telling this story to myself about, about all the great things I must have done in my, personal and professional life. And that's the thing I keep presenting in terms of, all my achievements, all my successes, etc. But I think that's a very incomplete story. And actually, it's, if I can say, it's a bit of an unfair story also. It is all about me. It is all about, myself at the center. And, it kind of leaves very little room for a whole lot of people who have played a role in that story. So it kind of, edges out everybody else, and it keeps me in the center of that story. If I can say it like it's a PR, story. There's a lot of PR. It has no PR. So I think I am going to today look at a little different flavor, where maybe um, I will look at what role others have played in this story, and how this whole thing has panned out. So it's a kind of an experiment, and I hope this will make sense. So let's start from the start. It was let's say the period 1965 to 73 or thereabouts. There's a place in Mumbai called Bhuleshwar. It's almost like a mini Gujarat, and over there we used to stay, the four of us, my elder brother, myself, my father and my mom. And it was basically what they call in Mumbai as a kholi. Okay, a kholi is like a very small room. This one was smaller than anything I must have seen in a kind of a constructed building. This was like about 5.5 feet in width, and about 10 to 11 feet in height. Sorry, in length. And there was a attic which was about like half the size. So that's the kind of place where we used to live. And my father used to work as a BEST bus conductor. In Mumbai, you have these BEST buses, and he used to work as a bus conductor over there. And he also used to work as a rent collector for a Parsi landlord who had a lot of these chawls. So he would basically, help him out in terms of doing all the rent collection and that kind of an activity. And my father was also supporting his younger brother, who had, like him, also kind of moved from the village to Mumbai. So that was like the entire, kind of beginning for me. And after a few years, we moved to another place, which was a little bigger kholi. It was again in a chawl. But I would say the change of environment was possibly not the most conducive one for young children. Possibly they would have got much more and too much exposure to things we possibly they should not be getting at their age. But that is, we were in survival mode, and I think that is where, possibly that was the option available. Uh, but none of that really, like, affected, uh, all of us. So basically, my three siblings arrived after we moved to that place. But while we were brought up, I think the culture within our house was possibly little, little more, I would say, helpful for all of us to not kind of, get too heavily influenced by the environment which possibly was there around. And uh, so I think that's how, it kind of all began. And one thing, which I have experienced in my own personal journey, and I think it is quite true, I would say, for a lot of families which are, in the working class, that the parents really want their children to do well. They want their children to be educated, and they see that as the, as the way to break free from the survival, mode. But they lack any kind of, anything beyond that, except for that expectation or aspiration. They don't have that way forward. They don't know what is the best way of, making that happen. And to a large extent, it was true for my parents also. But to his credit, my father was, very committed to this idea that all his siblings should be, kind of properly educated, and he would find resources for us. Like, my brother used to struggle a bit with mathematics, so he found a tutor for him on for mathematics, and he found tutor for both of us, in English, for English rather, I would say. And I think I was a bit lucky. In the same, chawl, I had my Hindi teacher from the school, whom everybody used to call in the building as Guruji very fondly. And I think probably he's kind of, he must have sensed something in me. So he started taking a lot of interest in, in me. And he actually started advising and, kind of giving some guidance to my parents in terms of, how maybe they should look at, things in terms of my education and upbringing. So these two people have really played a very massive role, apart from, of course, my mother, but they both have played a lot of role in a lot of things, I might have subsequently kind of, found for myself. And, I think the other thing is that, uh, there is an advantage of this, this upbringing, that you don't have a lot of expectations placed on you. Like, I knew from my, friends in IIT when I went there, that a lot of them had faced a lot of pressure in their childhood because there was a lot of expectation. My father, for him, the only expectation he had was that I will do my graduation and then I will become an officer in BEST. So his world was basically that, he felt that maybe that is a good, kind of, it's a good progression. Guruji, would possibly look at me a little differently. So his expectation was that I would possibly take up journalism or I would do some writing. And that came from, some, I mean, he used to teach me Hindi, and I have learned a lot of, I wouldn't have, a lot of my interest in Hindi was thanks to him. And in my 10th standard, prelims, he had put an essay for us, which was on Madhyavadi Chunav. So, that was a time when those midterm elections had happened. I think it was about 1980. And that essay got him so excited that he must have read it in the teacher's room in the school. He must have read it in every class that he was taking. And he also read it in our building amongst the, elders and friends. He must have, kind of must be interacting there. So that kind of, made him feel that I should be going down that direction. But all in all, it was kind of left open for me to figure out what I would, what would best suit me. So that's how kind of, things were it up to my schooling. Then when I moved to my college or, the junior college, uh, the first big disaster was the change of medium, English medium. And I remember the very first class I was in the front row, and within few days, I would be found in the last row, and I would struggle, but I wouldn't kind of, be able to capture what's going on in the class. And it took me about 6 odd months. And those English tuitions really helped me, because I now realize that that time that helped me in my grammar. So I don't think I was lacking much in terms of the grammar part of it. I was lacking in vocabulary, and I was lacking in confidence. So these two things kind of gradually caught up, and therefore I was able to cope up. But I also see this as one major stumbling block for a lot of people who come from this kind of a background, especially from an vernacular school. That the moment the medium of education changes, it becomes very difficult for them to cope. And it has been true for a couple of my siblings also. So I think again, possibly I was a bit lucky that I was able to go forward. So that was in terms of the college. And then it was 12th standard, and it was the time for my annual exams. Um, and one day I was supposed to go for my maths 2 paper. And I went to the exam hall, and I realized there is nobody over there. And then I realized that the schedule had kind of changed. Earlier all the exams were in the afternoon, and from this paper onwards it had moved to the morning, which I had somehow kind of I was oblivious to. So I kind of missed that exam. And I came back home with all the dejection and all the drama. And that evening, when my father came home, he kind of noticed a very uneasy silence, and he obviously asked. And the moment he came to know, I very vividly remember what he did. He just sat down and he cried. And he cried. I have never, I don't think I have ever seen him cry, even before or after. I've never seen him cry. But that was one moment when he really, really cried. And that remains as one kind of, uh, I would say, very memorable moment for me, something that I'll never forget. So that's how basically things happened up to that point. Uh, I could have actually cleared that exam still. I mean, I could have cleared 12th still, because maths 1 paper was done, and I was very good in my studies. So I knew that I would clear it. But people advised me that your 12th percentages matter a lot, and therefore you should take a break. You should kind of appear for the entire thing again in the next year, instead of continuing with it. And obviously that looked like a big setback for everybody, and definitely for me. It was difficult, again going back to the class with a very completely different batch, and getting started. And few months later, it proved to be a huge blessing in disguise, because I was in the college, in the library, and next to me was somebody who was trying to solve some problem. And I kind of got interested, and we got talking. And actually we had never met each other before that. And then there were two keywords which kind of were came, and I came to know of them. One was JEE, and the other was Agarwal classes. So he was basically preparing for his joint entrance exam, and he was basically solving those lessons from Agarwal classes. Um, and then, I mean, the next thing I knew is I went home. I asked my mom everything I wanted. I would first make the sifarish to my mom, and then she would kind of talk to my dad and get things done. So this also happened. I mean, like I said, my father would never say no to anything which we wanted some, to do in terms of our education. So he kind of, it all happened. So all the correspondence materials arrived because I was very late in enrolling. So initially a whole chunk arrived, which, I was like, I had to, kind of do the backlog. And then of course, you kind of get your regular, materials which keep coming. So obviously that year it was very late for me to kind of, do it. And I didn't obviously make it through JEE. But that experience was interesting for me. And in fact, that year after my 12th, I got selected for Vishweshwaraya Regional College. And somehow, I don't know what happened, but I kind of, possibly for the first time in that whole, journey, I felt quite confident that I should not take this offer, or I should not take this. I should not wait. I should wait for one more year and I should prepare. And, if it doesn't work out, it's fine. I would still do my BSc. But if it works out, then, I don't know. I can't still figure out what must have motivated me to take that call, but I did it. And again, because, I never had any kind of pressure from the family. Nobody said anything to me. Nobody said that, no, you're taking a risk, or, you're kind of doing something which possibly you should think twice. It just happened, and sure enough, next year things happened. I kind of, um, got through to IIT. So essentially, one missed exam, which looked like a massive setback, was some kind of a, it was some design somewhere, because of which, my entire trajectory would change. Possibly, if I had not missed that exam, then, my journey would have been very different compared to, what it eventually turned out to be. So that was, so far as my entrance to IIT was. And then I think the next thing was, it was still not kind of an end of the drama for me before we went into IIT, because I went to the campus. I figured out all, things which are required. And I came back to my mom and said, I'm not joining. And she asked me, and I said, it seems very expensive. Obviously, at that time, my three younger siblings were also kind of, growing up. So possibly I was thinking that, this might become too heavy burden for the entire family. And that is the time another angel arrived, and that was my elder brother. So, he said that, you should still go for it, and I will take up some job, and I will, kind of support if something, if there is a issue or a challenge, but you should not let go of this, and you should kind of, take up this. That's how kind of, things happened, and I eventually came into IIT. Uh, when that happened, uh, so, the moment you enter, the first thing that you encounter in the hostel is ragging. And all of my batchmates were very talented. So somebody could sing, somebody could, play some instruments, somebody had sports credentials and all of that. I had none of that. So I would be asked to clean the seniors' rooms, and I have done quite a number of them, and one of the seniors, after that, kind of, he kind of got me into one of the chat sessions. And there they all discovered a little bit about me and my background. And from that day onwards, nobody ever ragged me in that whole hostel. And the first thing they told me in that very session is that you should go tomorrow to the library and pick up a thing called as a MCM scholarship form. It was basically merit cum means scholarship. You should pick that up, and that will entitle you to all your course books from the library. You could borrow that, a larger number of them, and also you will get some kind of a stipend which will help you. So I did, obviously I did all that, and it worked out. But again, these were like kind of support I was getting all through my journey, and right up to this point, everywhere I have kind of I have reached, almost as if there was somebody ready to help me out. There was always somebody who was placed there who would kind of hold my hand and take me to the next place. And all out of I had all the ignorance with me. I had no idea in terms of how things will shape up, but things would just kind of somehow fall in place. So that's how kind of the things at IIT happened. uh, During this period, my father would visit the campus almost every fortnight, unless I am I have kind of gone during the weekend to my house. He would visit. And the shortest way from the place where we used to stay, which is Grant Road, to Powai, would be first to take a train and then basically take some other option. But my father would always take buses, and there was no direct bus, so he would keep switching buses. But he would take the buses. Why? Because it is he doesn't have to be paying for it, because he is the employee of BSc. He would spend much longer time, but he would make it a point that he comes there every fortnight. And obviously from the main gate he would walk all the way to my hostel, which was like on the other end of the campus. But the idea of taking a rickshaw or anything would never strike him. He would just walk. And he would always carry a thela full of fruits, and he'll kind of keep it at my place. That's how so I mean, again, when I look back, I know that it was not only my journey. It was a journey which I was only the front for it. It was I was kind of I was carrying the aspiration of a lot of people. And so that's how it was. So that was IIT. And then came the time of placement. So I had taken a 5-year MTech thing. After first year you can switch, and ours was the second batch. I mean, it was just very recently started. So I took it up. My main motivation was again that after the fourth and the fifth, and on the fourth and fifth year you get stipend, and also you get a lot of practical experience. And I felt that I was lacking in a lot of things, which will come in my way when I want to kind of get placed. So that's how I did that. And then when it was placement time, um, I appeared for an interview, and then I appeared for another and another. And I think the campus life had changed me a lot. It had kind of given me a certain perspective, certain outlook, very different from what I was when I had started. But as I was still very raw, and I lacked possibly a lot of those soft skills which are still required for you to land a job on your own. And it was just not working out. And that's when my mentor, so I had my mentor professor who was basically guiding me for my MTech project. And he came to know of it. And he simply told me that you finish your project, you don't worry about your job placement. You just kind of focus on your project and get it done. And soon enough he kind of arranged an interview for me. I had to go to New Bombay for an interview. I think I did as badly I must have done in all the other interviews, but I still got selected. And obviously I now know why I got selected. I knew at that time also why I got selected. And that was again another stroke of luck. If I had found a job on my own versus what, this particular spot, this was a company, it was a chemical, my specialization was chemical engineering in IIT. So this was a chemical manufacturing company in New Bombay. And uh, my guide, as well as his boss, his guru, which happened to be Professor M.M. Sharma, he's a leading light in the chemical engineering industry. He is a Padma Vibhushan, subsequently fellow of Royal Society. And people would aspire to meet him for a very short period. And here I was, getting his wisdom for 2 hours, 3 hours every month. He would come to the place and he would kind of ask us how things are going, what kind of projects we are working and all. So I was in the R&D department of that particular organization. So now during this period, again, why I say it's a blessing in disguise, because I got a phenomenal role to play. Within the first 3 years, I had the opportunity to set up an entire batch plant, which would manufacture three products. So it was like, I had to assemble few things from a closed plant, and also I had to get certain balancing equipment. I had to do all the scale up design and everything and set it up. And in fact, I was also responsible for doing certain amount of experimentation in the lab. And almost like within a 3 years time, we completed that project and it came about. It all looked very nice, fine, but suddenly a problem arose, and it was realized that out of the three, the plant was able to produce one product quite well, but the other two would just not happen. And then a lot of postmortem, and we realized that few things went wrong in the laboratory, which I was partly responsible for, and few things went wrong in the design and the calculations and the engineering side of it, which I was completely responsible for. The buck had to stop at me. And I think in any other organization, possibly I would have been shown the door, But here, I had another angel, my immediate boss. He would stand, besides me like a rock. And even if I don't even know whether he faced any heat from the rest of the organization, but he never let that heat percolate to me. He never kind of, even he never even, spoke a word of disappointment to me. And obviously, my mentor as well as Professor Sharma, their interest was simply to know what had gone wrong and how to fix it. So I never faced any punishment for that huge failure. It was a massive failure. I mean, the company in that time had spent about 4 crores of money, in terms of setting up the whole thing. And obviously, it was a significant amount of money at that time. The only punishment I faced was my own guilt. I obviously was, killing myself for whatever I had done. And some of those mistakes were very, very avoidable. I mean, when I look back, I know that I had no business making those mistakes. That actually turned out to be a kind of a defining period of my career. I think that that changed something in me, and there onward, then I have possibly not looked back, in my career, and I've kind of not had those kind of setbacks. So again, having a setback right in the beginning and being in the place where that setback was tolerated, and I was allowed to fail, and I was not kind of uh, I was not kind of withdrawn, or I was not kind of that fear that something has gone wrong, and therefore when I try something the next time, or if I take risk next time, things will go bad. That kind of somehow didn't happen. So my ability to take more risks was not diminished because of this, and which I feel is a blessing. It's not something which everybody gets, that kind of an opportunity. For much smaller mistakes, people face much bigger consequences. One more offshoot of my association with Professor M. Sharma was that he would talk very highly of entrepreneurs. And that somehow kind of, created a seed in my mind that, eventually I should be starting something on my own. I remember even in those times, I used to kind of, visit MIDC, and I used to look for, decent plots where possibly, some things can be done. Luckily, I didn't kind of, do all that during that time, because I don't think I was really ready for any of that. But that seed was somewhere, there. There onwards, obviously, I spent another 4 years with that organization. Things went quite well. I think I was not punished, but I was eventually rewarded, and things kind of went well. And this was also the period when I had joined my management course, which was Jamnalal Bajaj. And I basically, I completed that. And that was the time, possibly, I thought that it's a good time for me to make the career move because, if my aspiration was to do something on my own, then the technical knowledge itself would not be sufficient. So, I looked at a career move and I moved to a pharmaceutical company. And there I was reporting directly to the managing director of the company. His name was Mr. Naushad Parodi. Again, a very kind of well-known person, and you don't get to report into a person like that in such a short period of your career. So again, somewhere some luck, was there, and I was responsible for handling their business planning and strategy and new alliances related activities. So completely different and removed from what I had done in my previous job. uh, and this time I landed it on my own. So that was kind of obvious. That means that over a period of time, some of my challenges, some of my confidence, etc., kind of got taken care of. And subsequently, I went to another company after a few years. But during this period, when I was in this pharma company, uh, another major, I would say, incident happened, which was my second daughter, who was born actually almost the same time when I had taken the career switch. And she basically was born with an extra pair of chromosomes. So it's a condition called Down syndrome. And again, I mean, with this kind of a situation, for me to make a career move, firstly, was unthinkable. And secondly, to be able to focus a lot on my career, where I have to take care of my young one, would have been very difficult. My wife was a school teacher, and we were living in a joint family, and it's never easy, for a working woman. It's like doing two jobs. You have to take care of the house as well as you have to take care of the your career. And then this particular situation happened. But she again, kind of took almost the entire responsibility. I would only during some of the weekends, etc., I would go for some intervention, some therapies, etc. But otherwise, bulk of the responsibility of taking care of her, managing. And you need, in the earlier couple of years, or 3 4 years, that early intervention is very important for these situations. So she would kind of do all of that. So that was, I would say, another angel, which obviously helped whatever subsequent journey one was able to take. And finally, when I moved from this organization to the next one, which was a pulp and paper industry major, plus they had a lot of other businesses. So I was handling their corporate, systems consulting. That was a time when things were kind of beginning to happen. It was 98 basically, and things were beginning to happen on the IT front. And my team was responsible for doing a lot of those process mapping and BPR and ERP evaluation and all of that. Y2K was something which was happening at that time. And so that was also the time when I came up with an idea for e-commerce, and which was very specific to that industry, pulp and paper industry. And it was liked so much by the managing director, which was Gautam Thapar, that he actually ended up funding that venture. So me and a colleague of mine were like co-founders of this particular e-commerce venture. But just as much excited he was during that time, the moment the first bubble burst, and kind of things didn't start, and they were not looking all that very uh, promising. um, the funding for this kind of came under a cloud. And obviously there were other reasons, because they were looking at other mergers and acquisitions and all of that. But the funding for this kind of got stopped. And that was actually the time when I realized that maybe I am now ready to get something going in terms of a new venture. That was somewhere around 2002 that I decided to start a company. and I was still financially not ready. So I knew that I have, if unless I fund it through somebody else, if I have to fund it through my own sources, then I have to still find a way. So then I was doing two things during that, during initial 4 years up to 2006. I was working for a global insurance company in their KPO as head of operation. And also I had a bunch of people working on an idea for a pharmaceutical industry, working on some kind of product idea, etc. That product idea actually didn't happen. My earlier talk was supposed to start from this point, okay? And so I am now not going to go into all of that. I think I have already exceeded a lot of my, I mean, I kind of, consumed a lot of my time. But long story short, that's how kind of, the whole thing happened. That product didn't work well, but we kind of found a niche, and that's the niche which has continued for last 22 years. And we kind of now in kind of running this business. And in this business I have found the angels in two forms. One is a bunch of friends and people who had possibly known me. They kind of gave us the first few orders. They kind of trusted us, and they had no reason to trust us because we had no history of success or failure. But they kind of gave us, and a lot of our, my team members. I mean, this has remained like a startup all through. Even now, I don't think it has kind of matured to an organization which is not a startup, and it still has its own startup pangs. So there are times when you face cash flow issues. There are times when things go very well, and during the thick and the thin, the entire team and a good chunk of them have stayed through the organization, sometimes facing very extreme difficulties. To some extent, I was still lucky because I had my an earning wife. So I could possibly forego my salary for a longish period of time and still not kind of face a lot of hardships. But some of them, it was not easy. But they have not only stuck through the period, they have seen through that, and not one but couple of times. And they have stayed on, and they have kind of in fact a good chunk of people who had started right in the beginning have still continued with the organization. So that kind of I would say those are the people who again are actually responsible for the journey which has happened post, I would say, 2002 till now. So if I have to sum it up all, I think it's, that's why I said in the beginning that when I look at it as my story, it's really not my story. It's a story of a lot of people, a lot of aspirations, a lot of people who just would, for no, they had no, kind of benefits to gain from me. But they were all there at the right place, helping me, supporting me, holding my hand, and showing me the next step. And that's how, kind of taking me through. And I thought, this is a part of the story which is important to be told. As much as I might have rattled a very different PR story all my life, and this is also a very humbling you know uh, uh, thing. The moment I the moment this realization has started to occur, I think my outlook has changed. The kind of uh, ambition or a kind of outlook I would have earlier versus what I now look at, it has significantly changed. I have started to take myself a little less seriously, and also it has given me that I feel that I also need to be available at some junctures for some people, whenever and a lot of people would face challenges, they must be facing challenges, so I should be available to just kind of give them that required nudge, or just to hold their hand and kind of take them to that next step. So that's I would say, I would to sum it up, that's what it is. um, Thank you so much. Thank you for patiently listening to me. Thank you so much.
Rakesh ji, don't know what to say. Very, very, very humbling experience.
Wonderful story, sir. Wonderful.
Yes. Yes.
Ashutosh, with your permission,
Amazing journey.
with your,
Amazing
Rakesh,
journey.
initially there was some problem with the disconnection. Whatever I have to say, I shall say later
Yeah.
on. Which I just heard slightly, and I could not get it about the first exam that you did not take or could not take. Maybe at the expense of others being repeated for my benefit. Just in brief, which is the exam you could not take because of the shift of the timing?
I was in my 12th standard, and so you have your, various science papers and maths one, and you have two papers of maths. So certain number of, exams had happened, and those were all in the afternoon. And then maths two paper and subsequent all papers were supposed to happen, to happen in the morning. And that was one critical piece of information that I had not registered. So I merely went in the afternoon to give my exam. And I realized that there is nobody, it's all kind of done and dusted. So that is the one I missed.
That was 12th, right?
12th standard.
Okay, okay. Ashutosh, please take over from here.
Uh, I'm at loss of words. I don't know how to react or what to say, but definitely this was a great listening experience. I mean, it's a true form of human library and many lessons to learn. So I will stop at this juncture, and I'll request any of the audience if they have anything to comment or speak or ask questions.
Rakesh ji, it was really heartwarming. I mean, sometimes I feel like everyone has a story. In my case, the way you have you have helped. I mean, you get help. In my case, the story was very opposite. Wherever I went, someone was there to pull me down. And it was a very, very big struggle.
Okay.
My story is a very different story than yours. Yeah.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, and probably because one of the reason, probably I'm a woman. That's another reason. People don't want to hear or get dominated by women. And that is another thing. But one thing, my daughter is also a civil engineer, and she did MBA and currently working in Honeywell, which is kind of multinational company. And sometimes she always said, I wish I did chemical engineering. So are you still involved in any kind of that project, or you are completely different now?
No, I mean, my association with chemical engineering technically stopped after my first job, which was after my first 7 years of career. I went back to it in my job with that, paper and pulp company, where I did some business, some process modeling for them, but for a very brief period. But otherwise, what I do now is more on the IT side of it rather than anything to do with chemical engineering.
Anything, okay. Because I was looking for if she has any question or some mentorship someone can provide. I was just looking for someone. That's
Anytime.
all.
I mean, I have my mentor professor. He is Professor Zuekar from IIT Mumbai. He's retired, but he's still associated with the institute, and I can easily request him to speak to her, and he would move. He's a gem of a person. He'll only give all the right advice to her.
Okay, I'll ask. I mean, if she is interested talking.
Sure.
She doesn't speak Hindi at all, and so even if a little bit, very little Hindi, she can talk, but yeah, someone has to completely talk in English before, and that is her kind of limitation.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, he's IIT professor, chemical engineer. Why can't you? But it's like sometimes we are used to of a language so much that forget about which language we are talking, and the other person we just assume that other person knows the language. And I sometimes do that too. Someone Indian, I assume that their person knows Hindi. So, and that is not true. Not everybody knows Hindi. So, yeah. So I will ask her, and I'll email you. I'll text you on WhatsApp in
Sure.
case if she's interested. Yeah. She sometimes
All right.
tells me that she wants to know about chemical engineering.
Uh,
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
But it
may
was
I
great.
speak?
Yeah, Pankaj. Oh, Pankaj ji
Yeah,
wants to speak. Please go
yeah.
ahead.
So sorry, I could not. I joined very late, unfortunately. Uh, I will have to see the recording. But one thing I would definitely say that the kind of journey Rakesh sir has done, and it's really very commendable, because I know how struggles, how the startup people struggle. It's really tough. So many kind of real world challenges are there. You even risk your life, okay, by foregoing some of the stable opportunities. So I've seen many people working at the very ground. You have a lot of uncertainty. You don't know what will happen tomorrow, okay, or the next moment. So life, it's a very high volatile thing. Okay, ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs. But definitely I would say it's really tough, and it's not everyone's cup of tea to face those struggles. And then, so it's a success or failure, that's a different thing, but the kind of perseverance and kind of struggle and all those capacity, because you have to as a startup founder, you have to look at very multiple things: finance, managing people, managing work, so many things you have to take care of. So I would definitely say that it's really it must have been very commendable for Rakesh sir, and I will definitely look for the video, but I unfortunately I joined late. So that's all I have to say.
I mean, you may not find much in the video because actually the flavor of this talk was not so much on what happened post the startup. That was meant to be the original, agenda. But I think this one was more whatever things happened prior to that. So yeah. But I
Okay, anyway,
appreciate what you're saying, and thank you so much.
thank you, sir.
Yeah.
No. Incidentally,
It
Rakesh
can be
ji,
an inspiring story for many youngsters, because the kind of life you lived in the earlier part of your life, I mean, uh, millions of children are living in the same condition even now, even in 2024. And your story can really be inspiring for many such children who feel that they have been sort of deprived of the opportunities that those who are well off have. You can start from anywhere, living in a chawl in Mumbai, and then even thinking of getting into an IIT, and then leaving a job, starting a startup. Yes, you can be an inspiration for lot many children who are not so lucky, who have not been born with silver spoons in their mouths. Yes. And many of I mean I don't know how many of us are today here, but the whole group, many of us, if we look back, we may have the same kind of story with little of bit of difference in the storyline. That's India,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
I one day I will be the human librarian. I'll share my experience.
Yes. We'll look forward. We will look forward.
And
Absolutely.
there's nothing to feel ashamed about your being. I always say that
Absolutely.
I'm proud of the place that I came up, and I'm proud of where I stand today.
Absolutely.
Yes, I could have done better. Some of my friends are doing better, but then that is again a subjective and
Yes.
a matter of opinion. Because yes,
Absolutely.
those helping hands, the angels, the destiny, the fate, everything is there. But then if you are happy with what you have achieved and where you are right now. No regrets. No regrets.
Absolutely.
For
Absolutely.
myself, I can say that I would love to get the same and live the same life all over again with all the struggles, all the problems that I
Absolutely.
faced in my childhood.
Itto.
Yes.
Itto. You said it, sir. Absolutely. Absolutely. I wouldn't want to change
Arun sir has
anything of my past, really.
Arun
Ashutosh,
sir
please
has
Sorry.
these
continue.
lines in one of. No, I was saying that Arun sir has exactly these lines in one of his poems, which he shared with me.
Okay.
Arun probably will like to hear
Ashutosh,
from him.
You read my mind. Once you finish, once everybody finishes, then if time permits, I shall share few words. Please continue.
Sure.
Sure, sure, sir. No, just that, Dr. Jha, sir, you want to say anything else also? Sorry, I interrupted in between.
This evening, I don't have any questions. And
Okay.
uh, I was for some time overwhelmed with emotions, and then I shared my views. Yes, I will. I may have a lot to talk about my story someday when my turn comes, and I can wait till
Okay.
infinity for that. No hurry. We have so many
Oh,
speakers
okay.
waiting for their turns. We'll like to hear from them, learn from them, and one day, yes, my turn will come. Your turn will come. Why not? We still have
Sure,
lot
sir.
many stories to share.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, other day when I was traveling with my sister and my brother-in-law, I was traveling from Patna to Muzaffarpur. So I just mentioned to them that there are 6 billion people on Earth, probably approximately 6 billion people on Earth, and I feel that there are 6 billion novels which can be written. So everyone's life is a unique story. God has made us like that, and that's true. In fact, when when Rakesh ji was speaking, I was the last part of it. I was relating to my son's story. My son, incidentally, is also a chemical engineer. He did from BITS Pilani. What happened with you in the project? Something exactly opposite happened with him, and it changed the course of his life. He
Sure.
was doing his internship in Aditya Birla Research Lab at Nagda in MP. That was
Okay.
final semester of his engineering. He was doing some project, and he was a youngster और पूरे दिलो जान लगा के वो अपना काम कर रहा था project का. Something happened. The lab in charge, senior foreman or whatever, whoever he must have been, they had put some chemicals. They were trying to grow some, I don't know, bacteria or whatever they were doing. It required to be kept in that state for some time, for a week or 10 days, and they were supposed to do experimentation on that. What came to his that gentleman's, the lab in charge's mind? He said, यार ये बाल्टी बहुत देर से दिनों से मतलब वो टब बहुत दिनों से पड़ा हुआ है, इसको सफाई कराओ, फेंको इसको. And he reached the lab and he found that his entire work had gone down the
Oh.
drain, literally gone down the drain.
Oh. Oh.
So
Oh.
he was completely shocked. And by then he had another job in hand, which was in an IT company through the campus
Okay.
interview. That was, of course, and the big attraction was that they were giving him an Apple laptop. उसने घर
Right.
में एप्पल लैपटॉप तो देखा नहीं था. एयरफोर्स ऑफिसर के पास डेस्कटॉप बड़ी मुश्किल से खरीदा था घर में. एप्पल लैपटॉप really attracted him, so he changed his track completely. From chemical engineer he became an IT engineer,
Yes.
and he's pursuing the same career. So there are people who learn from this kind of, they can even change the track of their life. So this is what happened with him,
Yes.
and I'm
Absolutely.
definitely going to share this video with him. I'll ask
Yeah.
him to go through
Thank you
it.
so much.
And something similar happened to me too. I was in
Okay.
college and maths was my major, and I was very good in physics and maths. And first
Okay.
class in maths, I have to join to go do statistics. And I was so overwhelmed that I dropped out thinking about joining IIT and became a doctor. So my story is was becoming an IITian was dead before it
Yeah.
started.
Okay.
So yeah,
And
each
say,
of us have a story.
yeah. If I may ask, Rakesh ji, which year did you join IIT Bombay?
1984.
1984. Then my first cousin must be 2 years junior to in chemical engineering. He is now in US, Dr. Anup Kumar Singh. I don't know whether you know, he must have, you may not be knowing him, he must be 2 years junior to you. He was also in chemical engineering.
No, the name doesn't strike. So it is usually either the branch or the hostel. So we normally ask which hostel and which year, and that's how we connect.
Ah,
So
okay.
if he was in my hostel,
Yeah,
then there is a good chance I must have seen him, met him. I was
he
in
must have been
hostel
2 years
3,
junior,
so
2 years junior to
yeah,
you. So you
yeah.
probably एक साल junior फिर भी पता चल जाता है वो रैगिंग में
नहीं नहीं 2 साल भी हमारा because I was
जूनियर का
doing
होता
my
है
MTech, so
दो
I
साल
was
जूनियर
like
थोड़ा मुश्किल है
I had a overlap, so yeah, but
ओके
वो थोड़ा hostel वगैरह का फर्क पड़ जाता है sometimes.
ओके ओके राइट okay anyone else any other point other than Arun sir of course
Yeah, I have just a comment.
okay yes Dipankar ji
No queries really. Someone had said the world is not made up of atoms; it's made up of stories.
Mhm.
I think you proved it, and it's true. Even Dr. Jha said the same thing. No, actually, Ashutosh said that there are so many billions people, and there would be so many billion stories. So it was nice, very nice. Just one query. No, when did you get into spirituality in this journey? Before that, let me ask, what do you want to title this speech? If it is not your life story, then my question is invalid.
I didn't get the last question, Dada.
What is the title of today's speech?
Oh, I
Let's
think I
twist.
will leave that tough question for Ashutosh ji to figure out.
Start.
Once he creates the video, he will have to put a
Start.
title to it.
Okay.
On the first question, honestly, Dada, I can't put my my finger on a particular time or a moment when that so-called spiritual journey must have started. Um, but I think there was a phase where it got accelerated. That I know. But when it started, and I think it was a very gradual process, and I think it was somewhere around 2022, like 2021. That was the time around July. That is the time I know it got a bit accelerated. My focus shifted. A lot of what I spoke today or in the previous session when I was talking about the walk within, and within that also I had kind of taken myself as a specimen and kind of touched upon some of these things. A lot of that kind of appreciation that me at the center is a false way of looking at things, and there is so much else to where I am right now. That kind of happened during that from that period onwards, I would say. So I can only give a very fuzzy answer to this.
No, so you picked it up too fast. If it started in 2021, as you said, so in 3 years you've learned so much on that front.
And
Long way
now
to
I
go
can
still, Dada.
now I can correlate why you were so passionate about Collat's problem. So kind of perseverance you have in startups that
Oh,
you
yes.
can.
Yes.
Sarda Prasad ji is
It is
raising
still
his hand.
keeping me busy a bit.
Good thing.
Sarda Prasad ji, you may
Yeah,
unmute
you,
yourself
you wanted
kindly.
me to speak, sir? No, I
Yes,
have
sir,
no
please.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
questions
please,
to
sir.
ask.
I
I
saw
have
your
already.
hand. Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Right. I have no questions to ask. I have to only express that I am overwhelmed. And two things I will comment. One is that people who have a very great journey from somewhere to somewhere very high up in material terms, social terms, academic attainment terms, uh, lifetime achievement terms. Wherever I've heard of them, uh, it is basically I, me, myself. Most of the time we hear that. And I am very amazed that Vajpai ji is remembering all the angels at all the phases. And he is never really saying I, me, myself. And he is saying so many other people, so many other things. And he is acknowledging all the stages of his supports, all the people. And so this is so grounded and so, I will say, so with lots of humiliation, grounding, that amazes me. That's excellent. Generally, we have seen big people, big bosses. I have not been one of them, but generally it has been more of I, me, myself, and more of telling others that this is the thing. It's very, very wonderful, sir. That is one. And it amazes me that okay, everyone and so many of us have so many stories in them, and each unique. And some people go somewhere and their expressions, their communications, their things go on changing a lot and lot. He was still very grounded and very simple. So that's wonderful. And you are also active in your. I understood that right now you are in sort of process guidance, process management, workflow management type of thoughts, not actually engineering or program code or any of that. Knowledge management and guidance type of thing. If that is so, then I have understood that last phase correctly. And you thought of a different lecture where actually the so-called whatever you understand of startup comes. So if there is enough time and on many live stories we have heard, then maybe it will be interesting to listen to. Because on startups we have lots of good but indifferent. Like a startup will be germinated somewhere in some somebody doing having some fund in abroad and wanting a mule here to throw something, selling dreams, selling valuations, encashing his investment, getting off. The startup is gone, and some banks and some here, some foolish people have spent money. Some people's lives are gone. There are also sometimes the startups which have come here. But what you told is a real life. So I am again overwhelmed. Thank you very, very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. I think just to very briefly answer, I think I have suffered from that affliction of I, me, myself for a very long time in my own journey. I think a lot of what I spoke, I was possibly nowhere near this, prior to the period which I mentioned to Dada, So it was all about, me and my achievements and, how great I must have been, etc. And in fact, that's the story I would keep telling myself. And a lot of my vulnerable side, a lot of my failures, actually, I would be blinded to them also. And I think this has only made me richer, you know, to know your vulnerability, to know your, flip side, and to know that it's not you who has been important in this story. Um, there is, there is a whole, there is a role played by so many people. I think it does a lot, and therefore I would say that it's I can relate to everybody who talks about I, me, myself, because I've been there, and it's not a great place to be. On the second part, what I do, obviously, I have a fairly good understanding of coding, but I don't do coding by myself. I have a team which basically does that. So my role right now in the organization is only to look after the growth and look after things which would kind of give us the next impetus possibly. Apart from ensuring that the show keeps going on, there is sufficient funds and liquidity in the system and all of that. And third is people development, which is something I have taken up very recently. but I kind of, I at least the aspiration is to have more such things where I could be helping a lot of people in the organization to kind of, achieve their career of aspirations. So that is the, role that I play. The organization basically does application development for large corporates. So it could be any application. There are specific technical stacks which we really specialize in. So within that, we kind of help companies to build those applications. It could be anything. It could be things related to knowledge management, etc., which you spoke about, or it could be many other, what we call as use cases. So, yeah.
Sir, if it is not considered to be a personal question which is not preferred to be answered, then you don't answer. 2021 was not very long back. There was a lots of isolation by COVID, this, that of many people. That made many people give enough time to sit down and think back. I was only asking for what Dipankar asked, that your repositioning of yourself and your reposition of your spiritually repositioning yourself. Was it again another angel or just a own thought, mental?
No, I have no hesitation in answering this, but I think it's also, I mean, I feel a bit embarrassed if I keep talking about myself a lot. But basically, it was a very small thing that happened. I have never been to a hospital in my entire life. I mean, been to a hospital meaning I have never been admitted to a hospital except on one particular day, which happened in 2021. I must have fainted twice in a span of half an hour time, and it looked something like, I really didn't know what it was. And within the next day, I was discharged because everything seemed normal. But I don't know why that particular thing was to be crystallizing a lot of my decisions. So I took a lot of decisions during that time. One was to basically, make more judicious use of my time. I kind of moved out of a lot of social media engagements and all of that. And secondly, I kind of became a little more, I kind of started looking more within. I started giving more time to my real self, I would say. So that is the change. But I honestly, it's a very trivial incident, and I mean, in looked at a distance, it's not something that should have suddenly brought about a kind of a change, but it just happened. So that's where I am.
And they have not diagnosed what it was.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
asking
no,
the doctors.
it is. I think Sarita ma'am would, know this term. It's called syncope, and they say that
Syncope.
it can just happen. It has
I
no
also
basic
know.
reason. I mean, it was kind of
I
kind of options were narrowed down. Nobody still knows what it was, but yeah.
yeah, I know it very well. For,
Okay.
for different reasons. I've been through this maybe 20 times in my life or more. Recently having much more of them, repeatedly again and again. But anyway, that's not an issue. Anyway,
Okay.
sir. So what chance people to which direction is entirely depends on his good self and personality. मैं भी बहुत बार गिर चुका हूँ, सिनकोप हो गया था, हड्डी भी टूट गया था, but I never had a change in heart or understanding or wisdom that differentiates between good wise people and common people. Excellent, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
So
Thank you.
I just wanted to say a few things because you raised uh, about syncope. It's called syncope here, or syncope
Okay.
in India. Yeah. So basically, there are multiple regions, and why I'm saying because Stardust has said he has multiple of them, and that is not necessarily a normal thing. I just wanted to point out. As a doctor,
Sure.
it's called Good Samaritan. That means you are passing by or something happened to someone, you should help. So yes, once or twice it happened to someone in lifetime. That is normal. What we call vasovagal attack. Sometimes that happen. I don't know your history, but that sometimes happen. But if someone is passing out frequently, that is not normal. I just wanted to point out that that's all.
Sure. Sure.
Ma'am, maybe I can tell you offline. It is very
Yeah.
frequent now. I mean, I can tell you offline. There had been hemorrhages, brain surgeries, many things. I can tell you offline.
Mhm. Okay. Okay. I mean, I'm just pointing out that you should take care of yourself if that happens. That's all.
Even
Too much of
offline
care
would be
is
online.
too much of taking care is happening. I will send you some details, but
Yeah.
don't
I mean, you
bother.
you don't. Yeah, you do not have to worry
there,
about. I just
there
thought
is
I should point out. That's all.
I'm not worried. The
Okay. Good.
neurosurgeon and the neurophysicist, neurologist, they are worried. My psychiatrist
Okay.
daughter
As
is
long as
worried.
you are
I'm
being
not worried.
taken care of.
I'm not
Uh,
worried. Thank you
Okay.
for
Okay.
that aggression. Thank
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Good. Everyone is worried except Sarda sir. So that means you are lucky, very lucky. Okay. So I think we all have spoken, and now Arun sir, the podium belongs to you. So you can have your last word as always.
I have actually only one word राकेश जी के लिए मेरा मानसिक प्रणाम स्वीकार कीजिए सर मेरा मानसिक प्रणाम स्वीकार कीजिए I have been at the receiving end of the sprinkles coming from you to me. You know that, some of my friends know that. Probably today I found the reason why those were meant for me. So thank you, Rakesh. Ashutosh, I have nothing to add for today. I cannot. So please continue.
I was muted. So I know that all of us are overwhelmed, and it's really a story to to be heard by many. And I wish younger generation people were here. So not I don't find them, but definitely we can share with them. So Rakesh ji, thank you very much.
Thank you so
It
much.
was a
Thank you,
lovely
Arunji.
session.
Thank you, everyone.
Lovely. It was a great session. Thank you, everyone. I'll
Thank you so
now
much.
stop
Thank
recording.
you. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye bye.
Good day, everyone.